Today, if you don't get it by now, we're talking about the idea of rebuilding. And what we're going to do today to help us kind of usher that in, we're going to think about this on two levels. We're going to think about this on the level of your life, your story, the rebuild of relationships, but also what it means for us as a church to be sort of rebuilding and relaunching a sense of mission as we transition from a summer season. And I don't want to disappoint you, but fall's coming. Fall's coming. And what does that mean for us as a community? So I've invited some friends onto this stage, and this is the Foundry staff team, if you did not know that. And so if you're new to our community, this is maybe a good way for us to say, like, who's on staff here at the Foundry? The answer is look to your left and look to your right. So really quickly, could we go down the line? This is probably, and I mean like just really, really fast. Would you just introduce yourself? And maybe talk about how long you've been in your particular role, right? Go ahead.
Yeah, so I am Austin Hedge. I have been a part of the Foundry since before we launched in 2013. I came here about 7 months before we launched as a one-year intern, and then about 2 years after that, I was hired as the associate pastor.
Austin?
Hi, I'm Katie Hubbard, and I am the worship director here at the Foundry. I have been a part of the worship team for several years now, and I started as the director of worship in January of 2021.
Yeah. All right. We'll turn to the left here. We'll start on the end. We'll work it.
All right. My name is Lindsay, and I am the operations pastor here at the Foundry. I, like Austin, started before we launched. It'll be 8 years. I've been here for 8 years. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Hi, I'm Chelsea. I'm the children's director here, and I have served for the last few years on the kids team. And yeah, it'll be a year in September that I've been the children's director.
Yep. Cool. So there's the team. Now you know us. And so I wanted to ask our team here kind of two questions this morning to kind of get us thinking about this idea of rebuilding, particularly as it relates to some of the things God has done over the course of the past 18 months. I don't know if you realize this, but it's been really hard to function and be on mission together over the course of this past season. And this particular team represents a larger group of individuals who have been serving and been on mission and done some really incredible things. And so I think it's good for us first to maybe just stop and celebrate a little bit of what some of those things have looked like. So I'm going to start on my right. And I want to invite you, Austin, if you would kind of kick us off. What have been some of the things that you just have to celebrate from your vantage point and from your seat?
Yeah, so one of the parts of my job is to oversee the production here at the Foundry. And so a year ago, obviously, that completely changed. And we had begun to do a little bit of live streaming before that, but it was pretty much just for like the band to use or for us to get a sense of what it would look like and some training. And so when COVID hit last year, we basically said, hey, well, we are going full-fledged on this and we are adapting everything we're doing. We pared down who was helping us to really a team of about 3 or 4 people. Jake Hubbard and Eric Hunsicker in particular, who actually are in the back of the room right now, helped us every single week put on what we did each week here at the Foundry. So something to celebrate is frankly that we were able to make that turn and that transition, and that we did it well, in my opinion, and I'm hoping your opinion as well, that there are many new faces that got to know who Jesus was because of what we did over the last year, even though we weren't able to be in this room.
Yeah, that was amazing. Yeah, this group of people coming to us in January 2021 with 2020 rather, with a sense of urgency. And wow, definitely a God thing. Katie, what from your vantage point, what would you say here? The wins of your team and what that's looked like.
So the wins for me, and it sounds a little contradictory, but it was being together this last year. And I think for the worship team's mind is to gather people together around Jesus. It's a lot of times it's musical, but it's not just musical. So for this past year and a half, 18 months, whatever it is now, to gather together took like extra weird, sometimes awkward steps to do, but all those steps were worthwhile. And to see people week after week in the comment section taking that like extra little step to like someone's comment or post under it, or somebody would post a prayer request and people would like follow up with them later. We'd see people reading verses on the screen, and then the comment section would light up because you saw a face you hadn't seen in a while. Just all of the connection that we actually were able to make happen through other means. And then when we eventually started meeting, outdoors and then in this room, all of that stuff we were taking extra time and steps to do. It was just all flooding, all that verbal and nonverbal communication that happens was just like hitting us like a ton of bricks. And it's just, I'm celebrating that you guys made that happen.
Yeah, that's really cool. Turn over here. Lindsay, what would you say? What's been your seat?
Yeah, I oversee several different areas in my work, but two in particular have been ones that have really just encouraged me over the last year, and those are students and outreach. I don't know about you guys, but going through middle school and high school was pressure enough. To add a pandemic on top of that is a little insane. I can't imagine what our kids have gone through in this last year. But our students are really amazing here at the Foundry. So one of the things that we said was these kids are isolated from their friends, from their classmates. How do we provide them a safe space where they can actually be together with other students and learn about Jesus? And we were able to do that. We were able to create a space where our students have been in person for the whole last year doing student ministry here at the Foundry. Again, we did it in a way that was safe. They had lots of extra space. We marked out where chairs could be. But we were able to create that for them. At the end of our year, every year, I do like a little survey with our students just to see like what landed with them, what didn't, and ask lots of questions, had them write on a piece of paper. But one of the questions I asked was, what did God teach you in this last year? And overwhelmingly on this paper, over and over, our kids wrote some version of, I know that God is with me when things are hard. So for our students to learn that in this last year is really pretty incredible. So I hope that through this pandemic, that's something that they can take the rest of their life, is knowing God is with me when things are hard, and church is a safe place where I can be and experience that.
Yeah. What did you say about outreach?
Yeah, and then with outreach, we had lots of different ways that we saw outreach happen. If you've been around to the Foundry, you know that our tagline, our slogan is we're a church for the city. And that hasn't stopped since the pandemic happened. We have, if you don't know, we have a breakfast ministry that happens here every Sunday morning. That breakfast ministry has not missed a Sunday. They feed unhoused people and just food insecure people, or really anyone who is hungry in our city. They moved it from being an indoor event to now it's a curbside grab and go thing. But they're able to feed and serve and just be good friends and neighbors to people who are in need every week. We also have seen just pivots and innovations happen in how we serve. We have our Feed More, Be More event coming up that instead of it being one big event, we're now doing 4 mini events. And the Christmas store was another big one, to where a lot of different organizations like Your Toys for Tots and Angel Trees were having to cancel events because they were like, we just don't know how to do this in a pandemic. And I remember going to the University of Maryland, and they came to me and said, like, we want to make Christmas store happen. How do we make this happen? And we just went back and forth of, what if we did this? What if we did this? And together we were able to say, what if we did it outside? What if we did it under a tent? And we were still able to host our Christmas store event last year, in a year where parents were even more in need for toys and for just dignity and joy for their families. But we're able to pull that off when a lot of organizations couldn't. So us being a church for a city hasn't stopped. We still love our city, and we love our neighbors. Yeah. And that's been awesome.
Yeah, Chelsea, what about from your seat, from Foundry Kids, young people? That's obviously a group that's been very impacted. So
I work with 0 babies to 5th graders, and I feel like I have the luxury, there were so many wins, because when you work with kids, they find joy and meaning in the very simple things of life. So finding wins for me, it was not hard, but I narrowed it down to 3. The first one was our curriculum bags. Basically, we took our curriculum from Sunday and put it into easy to use lesson plans and materials, all organized in a bag, ready to go for our families. Nakia was a huge part in that, and she had the idea of just making bags for all of our families and delivering them straight to their door so that they did not have to come out during the pandemic and pick them up at church. And we had a delivery fleet that came to our church every month to pick up the bags and bring them to our families' homes. The second win was in the winter when Sarah Savage and her son Cooper emailed me and said, "Why can we do Zoom calls? We miss seeing everybody. We want to interact with people. Can we start doing Zoom calls?" So I was so grateful that she not only came with the idea and challenged me to do this, but she also said, "Hey, I'll lead one of them," which was amazing. So we are able to have a monthly preschool and elementary school Zoom call once a month for our kids to just connect and have fun together, and hopefully allow our parents a little bit more quiet to listen to the sermon. And lastly, we talked about it last week, was Kids for the City. During a week in July, we had 6 kids come to the church building and just serve our little corner of Riverside in really simple but meaningful ways. And if you want to hear more about that, we just did a video about it last week, and it's on our social media.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. I mean, I hope that your bucket's a little bit more full than you came in here with. I don't know what you carried with you today. I just hope you feel a little bit of encouragement, because I don't know about you, some of this is maybe not new information for some of you, but I have retained about 10% of the things said to me for the past year and a half, right? And I need that reminder that in my isolation or my scattering, or I work on Austin's team, so I may not know what Lindsay's team or Chelsea's team is doing, that God is still doing stuff in this community, right? And that the pivots are just another challenge, but God's still working. So I hope that you kind of hear just a spirit of celebration here, not self-congratulations, but for the people on this stage, there's a whole wider circle of people. You've heard some of their names, but it's a wide circle of people who have said, "Hey, I'm willing to let God use my story even in the uncertainty of this moment." So as we celebrate that, I know that we're also coming up on another season. Fall is coming. And we want to take some time today to say, hey, what is coming up in this next season for you? So Austin, Katie, Chelsea, Lindsay, if you were to think about this season between Labor Day and Christmas Eve, there's probably 300 things we all want to do. But in the areas that kind of represent your team, your corner, the things you see, would you highlight maybe what's next for your team? Austin, I'm going to start back over with you.
Yeah, so I think that one of the biggest things that's next for my team, and something that we've been obviously working on the last month or two, is just figuring out what it looks like in this new hybrid reality. How do we have people in the room while also serving, today we're serving families downstairs with our online stream, and serving people who are not here in this room, and continuing to encourage them and challenge them to be on mission with us from wherever they join us. And so we were continuing to figure out what that looks like. We're continuing to build our team, because to do something in room and online, and to do it at a high quality, requires a lot more people than pre-COVID, when we had a much more pared down team. We had a smaller team doing things because we just mostly were worried about in room that day. So that's the main thing, is we're trying to figure out what that looks like, because we see there's a huge opportunity not to neglect the in-room, but also with the online presence as well. When the Foundry was started in 2013, one of the reasons why Scott was drawn to Baltimore, and Orchard Group are one of the organizations we partnered with to plant here, wanted to be here, is because of just the opportunity to reach people, to reach the nations, to reach beyond our city, because Baltimore is a place that is influential, and being online provides that tenfold. It provides the opportunity for people who are having to step away for a short season from us, because there's one person right now in our church who is stepping away to care for her mother, and she's able to join us each week online, and normally she wouldn't be able to. Or if it's someone who is coming for the first time, and they want to just figure out who we are before they step into the room, they have the opportunity to do that. Or if there's someone who lives somewhere else, and this is an opportunity for them to connect to our church, whether they've been a part of our church and they've moved away, or they just found us online, or they have friends that have connected them. There's such opportunity to do church online, while also not neglecting what's happening here in the room.
Yeah. So this online thing is not this crazy novelty that'll pass away, right?
Yeah, and there's
really
more
here to stay.
opportunities that we can dive into,
Yeah.
even that we haven't even begun to test the waters of.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, Katie, how about you?
So as Austin has his eye on our online gathering, and I've kind of turned my attention to the various ways that we gather in person and worship together. I've kind of realized as I look ahead, I looked back a little bit to be like, the one of the gifts that the pandemic gave us was we couldn't operate on autopilot at all. Like all of our routines were disrupted, but that disruption, as painful as it was, allowed us to examine our routines. And I think a big question that people have, even in this room, is why church? And by that meaning, why do we gather this way? Why? Is this still important? Do I still need this? And so as I'm looking at over these next few months, I'm like really examining that question for myself and for our community of being like, what makes this important and necessary for us to gather both online and in person? And, I can't answer that question for anyone except myself, but I can say this: the science is in that we need each other. The psychological benefits of doing life in a community are too numerous to count. And that's any community. It can be in a gamer community online. It can be a mom's group on Facebook. It can be your coworkers at happy hour. So what is different about church? It's doing that community thing centered around Jesus. And all of the action that goes around that, our singing together, our praying together, our talking to each other in the comments, our Zooming with each other, our doing like sharing milestones like new jobs and new houses and marriage and babies and burying our loved ones. As we do all those things, it's when we come and center that around Jesus, that's church. So my question of the next few months that we've been looking at is like, are we doing that? Is that what we're actually doing when we come together? Are we looking at Jesus? Are we helping each other see Jesus better? And so looking at our processes that are around that and being like, is that it? And then empowering not just us, but empowering you to look at those things and be like, how can I look at Jesus better in this context? How can I help others who are around me shoulder to shoulder to see Jesus better and to follow him?
Yeah. And I love that because it's such a bigger question than how quickly can we get back to March 7th, 2020 normalcy, right? And the romantic nostalgia that we might have there. It's such a bigger question. Lindsay, what about for you? What do you guys see?
Yeah, one of the big things for me is just kind of reclaiming this corner. I oversee our hospitality and frontline team, and being on the corner has been really important to us. We intentionally used to serve coffee outside instead of inside because we wanted to be for our neighborhood and inviting to everyone. So reclaiming this corner, since our doors have been closed, and we want people to know that we're open and that we are a place of hope and a safe place that people can come explore who Jesus is and what it means to be in relationship with him. For our students, I want to see just expanded opportunities for them with both middle school and high school specific ministries that we can, and hopefully we can reach more students here in the neighborhood with those. And then with outreach, we have our first Feed More, Be More event coming up in just a couple weeks at the end of the month. And just seeing that flourish throughout the rest of the year. And then we'll have our Christmas store event happen again this Christmas as well.
Yeah. And Chelsea, how about you? How about for you?
Yeah. So for us, we want to be able to provide for our families a way for the kids to learn about Jesus and connect with Jesus in the way that they feel safe doing it right now. So we've been providing virtual programming that they get every Sunday morning. We'll continue to do that, but we're also trying to make space for them here that is more child friendly and welcome them with busy boxes. And we opened up the room downstairs as well, the multi-purpose room with tables for families so they can watch the live stream. And my hope is that this fall we can begin our plans to open up our children's classes again, but we have to make sure that we can do that in a way that's not only serving our family as well, but that is safe.
Yeah. And again, I want you to hear that the win for us as a church is is not just a restoration of what was, but a meeting of what is. And so entering this moment, both with online opportunity and in-person opportunity, what I want you to hear is invitation. An invitation to be part of what God is doing right now. There's a QR code on the screen that really is just intended for you it'll bring up a form that will help you kind of identify and think through strategically which of these spaces maybe resonates with you. Like, hey, I'm in the online space and I'm committed to the online space. I want to make that happen. Hey, I'm committed to wanting to further expand in-person learning opportunities or to continue on with virtual learning opportunities for our young people. My guess is that one of these things kind of rings your bell again. And the goal is not, again, so the goal is not just for us to go, hey, let's get back to some good old days. We've won. We have the mission accomplished banner today. But as we celebrate, also say this next season requires a wider circle of us. And so we hope that what you hear today is a beautiful invitation to be part of what God is doing. That QR code that's on the screen will be a great next step to take. But even today, if you see Lindsay on the way out, if you can't access that code or don't know how to do it, wave her down and she'll help you get connected to that respective thing. I want to close with just going into a time of prayer. I want to pray the prayer that we prayed our first Sunday of scattering in this new season. Kind of pray it into this new season to renew our commitment to do this. And so I'm going to just read it over us this morning. And so if we would enter this moment prayerfully and just kind of make this our prayer as a church as we enter this next season, online, in person, but on mission together. Let's pray. In times of distress, increase, O God, the spirit of neighborliness among us, that in peril we may uphold one another in suffering, tend to one another in homelessness, loneliness, or exile, and befriend one another. Grant us brave and enduring hearts, that we may strengthen one another until the disciplines and testings of these days are ended, and you again give peace in our time through Jesus Christ our Lord. Amen. Well, thank you, Foundry team, and thank you to all of those that you represent. We're really grateful for you. So, would you give them a hand to say, and the teams themselves? That's what we're really kind of saying. Just super grateful for that, and again, hope that you're excited about some of the things that you heard today.